Hello and welcome to the Aaron Russos podcast. Today is another episode in the Common Sense Hidden in Plain Sight series, and they're usually a little bit shorter than my normal podcast, but sometimes they do go over. It's morning time, so some of the morning morning podcasts, that's what we call them, may have a sip of coffee in them. And this ensures me that I'm fueled and able to continue. And I don't like drinking cold coffee. Never been a fan, not even iced coffee on a hot day. But then again, you know what? Every now and then I don't mind. And today's topic is, where do we go when we die? If everyone speaks of this eternal life, this eternal flame, and I'm the one with the mechanics of human existence, but I'm also the only one that has ever cured an incurable disease using that system, and I have proof that when you do it, it's for free on my website. You can do it, and then if that heals your incurable disease, then what more proof do you need? And it also opens a whole other can of worms that we some of us are ready for, and some of us don't even want to entertain, and that's fine. So I guess if you're able to find me as a reliable source, then you probably wouldn't mind listening about this topic. Now, it's written throughout many scriptures and through history that we are eternal. And I've spoken many times about the mechanics of the system that we're part of, how it works, and the holistic human being, and how I was able to, by using those things, do some things that no one else on the earth has been able to do. But also now, on the other side of all of that, I'm able to use that as a filter to see whether something is part of the end game for humans, something is true, and that's a beautiful thing, but not really, because 60% of everything I see is a lie, not true, or not part of our future. And so, the internal question, life, like eternal life. My grandfather passed away on the 20th of June last year. And no, it was the year before. And basically, when in 2019, when I went to spend some time with him to document, find out how he came to this country, how he, just spend some time with him, just some quality time with my grandfather. 2019, at this stage, there was no, there's nothing wrong with him. He was just getting old, and I have appreciated this man for his unconditional love, and we've lived together on a farm for many years, and he's been sort of like my favourite person. And we all have grandparents like that, so you know what I'm talking about. I just want to go and hang out with him, and I said to him, look, Papu, we're Greek Cypriot. I said, is there anything that I can do for you? Like, take you somewhere, do something, or me do something personally. I said, you've done all these things for me, in life. And he said, the only thing I've ever wanted you to do is get baptized. And I said, oh, okay. And obviously I'm not going to go, yeah, all right, let's do it. I said, oh, why is that? And he said, because I want you to have eternal life. And obviously his father was a Greek Orthodox priest in Melbourne, previously in Cyprus. And I guess when that generation involved in religion, like heavily involved, it was his belief that some of the things, some of the conditions, some of the controlling part of religion, that I wouldn't get into heaven or wouldn't be accepted back. I obviously know better now, if I wasn't baptized. And that was the most important thing to him, in his generation, and the belief that they had, at the consciousness level they were at in that stage. And so I'd already thought about this anyway, because a year prior I had healed myself of an incurable disease 300 million people had. So I thought, there's something out there, and that something out there helped me. And how can I be grateful to a creative source? Do you know what I mean? I understood by this stage, I'd been learning lots of stuff and about energy exchange, and I thought, how do you thank the creator of the universe and all the energy that helped you without basically it couldn't have been anything or anyone else, or not even myself. I couldn't have done it myself, but as part of like what you see in other podcasts of mine or books and things, is about this co-creation thing. So I was eternally grateful, and so I already sort of went there with that in mind, that was something that I was going to that I wanted to do. So we went to the church and we asked the priest, and he said, oh, you're a very what did he say? He goes, we're going to strike while the iron's hot with you, because I travelled a lot, and not only that, without any patterning. And in the past, it was a lot to do with trauma. It wasn't uncommon for me to get triggered by something, being super sensitive, and just leave town, a job, a house, or whatever. And I've done this many times because of trauma in the past, and obviously people that don't understand it don't understand it. So I was baptized in the Greek Orthodox Church in 2019, and now today I went there. At the start of last year, I went there to visit my grandmother, and my godfather is now the priest in that church. So basically, in my life, whenever I've had to, I've got answers, right, from something that no one can get here on earth. And so as part of the ongoing, spiritual journey, I guess, some of the things I did was I had to transmute, get rid of, whatever you want to call it. There's some fancy words around the spiritual community right now. All my fears, wounds, and things like that, and there was a lot of fears that were obviously made their way into my belief system, and I had to go back and go, well, what are ghosts? What are energies? What are, what's this crystalline grid? What are these eerie feelings when I get to places? And then I tried to, through science, and even, when it got a bit multidimensional out there, even be able to know what everything is through quantum physics, and then work out how to shed them from my being, and obviously not be in fear anymore of anything. Amazing experience. Highly recommend it. Changes your life again. It just keeps getting better, right? But through that, I wanted to understand the mechanics of reincarnation, where these records lie on the earth, in the dolphins, in the whales, in the Akashic records in each and every one of us. And the things that I uncovered were amazing, but they also were helping me to transmute the fears, because a lot of what you believe, regardless of whether you've been taught it or not, comes in the form of a sub-belief that you see off in the corner of the distance, and you go, oh, I'll take that, I like that, I want, if you like something, you usually take it into your subset of beliefs, even if it's hope, and even if it's not true, and even if you've got no proof whatsoever. And the human race as a culture, as societies, has been taking in many things that are just simply not true over the time, and then mixing it with, a state of perpetual fear, unbalanced consciousness, which is energy, so it can actually make you think really, it can make you think something that is not true be true, with fear and unbalanced consciousness. Crazy, right? And so I'm trying to work out how everything works, the good and the bad here on it. And so, for years we've had demons in movies, in scripture, in picture form, and then you have these stories, and I'm telling you this, and you all know it. Every single one of you knows what I'm talking about when I say demon. Every one of you will know this next thing. The other thing that I hear quite often being told to me is, I went to see a clairvoyant, a medium, and they said, I contacted such and such, a family member or whatever, and they said that they were trapped, a trapped soul. And so, as I said, many truths are laying out in front of me, and some things don't sit right, and then the more you know, the more things don't sit right. And this happened just, even just recently. And I thought about it, and I thought, oh, look, there is systems. There's a system that we're part of. And, I've been able to break it down and analyze it and then test it. And the system doesn't include any trapped souls. Imagine a soul that, I don't know, why would you need to trap a soul because it was here and it died in a certain circumstance that, or made to realise what it had done. And I soon sort of thought, oh, this is just another one of those things presented to us by Hollywood that is stuck in society and we've thought it's real. We've blurred the lines between reality and Hollywood, and then thrown in a bit of this other stuff. And also we have our Akashic records of previous lives, and while we can't access that unless it's relevant to our present journey and incarnation, there is residue of other beings in there that could, spark a bit of a negative interest for an unbalanced human being. And so there is no souls that get stuck or go through more anguish. All the anguish, all the pain, all the lessons, all the duality exists here on this planet. And once you leave this planet, it's a different realm, and it is a singularity, and everyone's in cooperation. And the way I look at it, I explain it, I guess, like a metaphor, I guess. And seeing we're talking about what happens to you when you die, let's just go through what happens. So you have energy. Now, back in the day, I remember reading a story about this guy who used to wait in the hospital for people to die and weigh them. And he reckons that when they die, they were losing 28 grams or an ounce. There's been other figures and things, but obviously, we're vibrating. Okay, as far as physics go, our energy is vibrating in this vessel. We only see it as a solid form, and you can go back and study science if you want to. And so obviously, when the body starts shutting down and we go through the process, this energy that we call the soul, because we've got the body, mind, and the soul, has to go somewhere. And so that's what that small loss of thing. I was shown that a long time ago. And so our consciousness, which is energy, goes back to join the soul soup, I call it. Okay, can you imagine this big ball of soul soup where you might be going back to a singularity, to a huge pool of energy and souls and everything, but you still have your soul groups, your soul families, your soul connections, and you also have the ability to, it's just not the way things work here, okay? It's like, how we use our mind here on earth to imagine stuff. That's how you would imagine something being solid, tangible, and things that you do over there. You would use the mind of your soul. And you can do some amazing things. We transition, and we don't really, either way, miss the other side. It becomes very clear. Like, you might think that you've got a body here, you can feel the air, you can feel, there's certain things that you can't do there to do with the physical. And the transition is an average of 3 days, okay, in earthly time, but they don't have time there. There is no, I've read many, you have no idea to the lengths that I've studied and read things. Another objection thing is, someone said that souls that take their own lives, because it's not part of the thing or whatever, is they're stuck, or they need to come to a certain realization, or they're dark. And that was a belief that I had for many years, that just the ones that took their own lives went through a different process. But I've since come to a new realization and understanding through things that there is a system, and the system is equal for everyone. And all the things leading up to someone taking their own life is the same things, all the things that lead up to someone that doesn't take their own life. When we get there, yes, there is some form of processing. It's a part of the transition. It's part of the realization. It's a bit of a soul mirror reflection of your time down here on earth, and you'll be presented with things that are just situations of like, why didn't you... It's all to do with love, because I've told you many a times through my podcast that the bias is love, and it's like, well, why didn't you use love here? Why didn't you use love there? Why didn't you use love there? And obviously, as we sleep and we process and we continually improve here on earth, there's all systems in perpetual motion, and that's also physics, and it passes over to the afterlife as well. And so it's a processing. We're bringing and taking things between the two worlds that we can't do in the other worlds, right? If that makes sense. And this is all contributing to an expanding universe inside an expanding parent energy. And so the transition's quite simple, but it's the same for everyone. There's no... all the things that you might think like come from a source that is no... And look, I'm not saying believe me, I'm just presenting where I'm at with my consciousness, but I've got some pretty big scorecard things under my belt that no one else on the planet has been able to do. So you could say this is for entertainment purposes. It can be for whatever you want. You're on your journey, you can take in whatever you want. And why would something like this be relevant? For me, relevance is about you got to have, there's got to be something that it does, right? You can't just entertainment purposes, fuck off. I do all this sort of stuff because it eliminates fear, and then you can live a life free of fear, which at the moment the whole world is in perpetual state of fear, indoctrinated into it through the system that you're part of. And you don't even know. You'll even laugh at anyone presenting an alternative. And so you get back to the soul soup, and you're there. Now, when you're over there hanging out, you don't really want to come back. You do want to come back, and it is totally your choice, okay? We have free choice here, and I say this is the only planet of free choice. And what does that mean? Does that mean you don't get choice in other places? Like, we've got to question the deeper language that we're using to find out, what we're part of. And I guess over there, it's not so much that there's no choice to do things, but when you know everything, to say you knew everything, well, then you wouldn't really have a free choice, because you would know what the right thing to do is. You know what I mean? Unconditional love is the highest expression of love. And it just means you don't have to put conditions or say, oh, don't go and cheat on me, because you just would never even, if you knew everything, that would never even come in to be a play or be even a question. So it's a different living over there in the spirit world. They do things, they think differently, because it's complete knowing. And they do the right thing every time. Here on earth, we know what's right and wrong every time, but yet we don't do it. We have a choice. And sometimes we do the wrong thing, knowingly, quite openly and knowingly, okay? And that's what free choice is. Transition back to the soul soup. Now, there is a system that goes back and forth, right? There's some of you will go back there for quite some time. Some of you want to come straight back. Some of you for reasons, some of you for not. When you come back, the system integrates you, reincarnates you back into the same biological family lines, because that is where the system gets its greatest bang for buck spiritually in growth. You got to remember, there's a bias of love within the galaxy, the universe. There is a system we belong to, and there's an end game for the planet, and you're all contributing to the end game for the planet. So anywhere where there is a possibility to get more growth, because that's what it's all about, whether it be the bigger picture or the smaller picture or the individual you, it's all about growth. Okay, everything is expanding, everything is growing, and so we get more growth from that thing alone. There's only one. I won't get into that. That's high level, pretty crazy stuff. Now, when, like, people at the moment, we're in an accelerated time of shift here on the earth called the precession of the equinoxes. If you're not up with it, it's pretty cool. It's like just ages. You've heard the song The Age of Aquarius. Well, we've gone from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. It's a shift. It's a whole age. It's going to be 2,100 and something years. And there was markers down here on earth, the ancients, everything is known over there, right? So you were back there looking down at this time now, and you're going, oh wow, the marker's going to come up where we're going through an age, and it's going to be one of the longest surviving human races on the planet. And if there's a slight possibility, because nothing's set in stone because of the free will, if there's a slight possibility that we weren't going to make it, then the people that are here now were up there going, I've got to be there because I think I can make a difference. I think I can get us over the line. And it's not a one person thing. It's a whole lot of souls all up there going, oh no, I've got to be there now. And so if you're here now, you're probably pretty special in the respect that you wanted to be here to be part of it, to make sure that you could use your soul experience, right? And there is old souls. Do you know what an old soul is? We throw the word around once again, but no one actually can, articulate exactly what it is. An old soul is someone that has reincarnated here more than other people and have more earth time. Your earth scorecard in hours on earth are more than other souls. And these souls have a special, a job on earth, right? Because what happens is, anything that happens on earth is like a classroom, is like a school, the whole school, not just the classroom. And so we have year 7s and year 12s. We have people, year 12s, graduating, and we have year 7s that are just coming in. So we have new souls, right? And you can look up, there's heaps of reference on what an old soul characteristics, old soul versus new soul, and all sorts of stuff, divine feminine, divine masculine, the energies within them. And so the old souls have got a job here to lead the new souls, to go first, to be way showers, to be the early adopters of that spiritual stuff, that spiritual sense. But they're also going to be the ones that are more supportive, probably the ones that are probably going to be a little bit nonchalant in certain things. New souls are quite excited to be here. The old souls are like, oh, fucking get me out of here. I'm going to go through this shit again. And I know there's lots of old souls just listening to this now going, oh, wow, that's me. Because you're like, oh, fuck, for fuck's sake, really? You've done it fucking 1,000,000 times. You've had enough. And because of the veil and because of the amnesia that you get when you come down, and because the slow, uncomfortable change here on earth, you think that fucking everything's going to be like that forever. Right? Because we're all hyper-fixated on a couple of generations. We don't understand that in certain times, like now, big changes happen. And in the past, things have changed as well. If you got in a time machine and went back 60 years and got out and said, hey guys, hey, how's the Wi-Fi here? They'll go, you have no idea what you're talking about, mate. If you You know what I mean? Things. So some things are like bigger picture, it looks like slow, uncomfortable change. And other things, we just don't give it credit. We just don't realise how far we've come in such a short amount of time. And so you've got all these things in play, and you're an old soul. You, responsible. And as I said, you think all these things are not going to change. I'll give you things from a numerology perspective in change and physics and quantum physics is that remembering, like amnesia when we come down, there's going to be a time in the future where we're going to remember more about our past incarnations. And that's in the near future, the next 10 years. Next 10 years to a generation. Okay, depending on free will. That's the thing that depends on all these things come to a fruition, because they're in the cycles, the energy's there, the development's there, the growth is there, we're cycling to that, and that's the next part, right? And some of these things are time capsules within your DNA that gets unlocked in higher states of frequency and vibration and growth. And some things we have to do, or some things we can push the envelope, some things we can make happen. And it's happening multidimensionally all over the place at the moment. So that's one big thing, right? That is, that's going to imagine awakening, remembering past life. And there's reasons and benefits and all the rest of it I won't get into now, because I just want to finish up this little podcast about what happens when we die. What happens when we're born is it's fantastic. Now, there's lots of different metaphoric stories that explain, how to bridge gaps in dimensions and understanding and awareness and consciousness. But the best one I like is that you are about to come down here. You get born into the birth sac, and obviously there's been certain things on Earth, like I've seen like a flash of some process of the birth under a microscope and things like that. But the place is like a lounge, right? So you're up, so you're peeling away as part of the transition from the soul soup, and you go in the waiting lounge and you're there with the entourage. Okay, so you might have your guides, higher self, innate, which is you anyway, some of your soul family, some it's all about love, remember? So that soul family are there. The connection is love. You have no idea how important this love stuff is. And so you're sitting there and they're like, hey, I hope you remember us this time. I hope you find us, And you're like, yeah, sure. And you go, yeah, but you've said that like 800,000 times and you've never found us. You're getting there. Do you know what I mean about the bigger picture? You're starting to look for us. You're starting to find us. Look, we're going to, if you're going to go down there to try and help with this, then so that's where that thing, contracts come from, right? If you're going down there, you're coming down here with some form of idea of what you want to achieve, and they call that a contract. You call that a contract, or it's been out there in the mainstream. And but that contract can be changed at any moment, because what happens if something better comes along, right? What, you're going to just stick with the old contract? That's shit. No, of course you're going to go for something better. It would be shit to live in a world with a system that isn't fair, right? Oh, sorry, I couldn't even manifest abundance and win Tats Lotto because my contract said I had to be poor and hang out with these people and help this. That's not the way it works. It's a fluid, it's a beautiful, we've got duality and the rest of the things going on. So you're up there, blah, 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 and then that same thing, that transition into the birth sack over 3 days. And then pop, you're born and you come out. So, you're in there having these amazing things. And when you're born quite magnificent. You're still, you can see multi-dimensional things. You don't have the veil, what we call the veil, over you. So but you also can't communicate. But then very quickly, everything that sort of happens to you even from a baby, you get, you'll get a trauma in the way of a jab in the foot. They prick your foot to get a blood test, and on starts your conditioning as a human being, as a soul having a human experience. And they'll jab your foot, and they'll give you a concoction of chemicals in the form of vaccines as a baby. And in the first 6 months as a baby, you're still quite you can see a lot of the multidimensional world and different souls and spirits, and you're in that realm still. And then you start getting exposed to TVs and other external things that just start obviously giving you a more of a conditioned view of the world. And the longer that you're exposed to these things, the more they seep in and change the very biology that you are. And before you know it, you're starting to forget any remnants that is left in there, imaginary friends or anything like that, are slowly squashed, and that's not true, and blah blah blah. And then you become dependent. You're born with all this internal guidance. You're born with internal a diagnosis, self-diagnosis system, how to find out when things are wrong within you physically. You forget that because you're getting consistently dozens of times a year taken to an external person who then runs a test to tell you that there's something wrong going on inside you. Depending on the generation you're born in and the level of consciousness and the frequency that you're born into depends on how open a lot of the things and your awareness is. And so we start getting further away from who we were, and the cycle begins again. Now, the reason why past life has been would even be relevant or necessary in this life is, one, for the awakening in regards to our growth to get to the end game. But secondly, we can have karma from a past life, and that would be super confusing, right? You're doing nothing wrong in this life, and you're like, why the fuck have I got all these challenges, speed humps, potholes? What the fuck? I haven't done anything, And so that's another thing that helps us open up and realize, to make us go looking for our divinity. That's another purpose of that very thing. Some people are born with more than less, and that's why really our only most important past life is only the last one in relation to karma, because it's a sequel to this one. All the rest of them is not going, would have been the sequel to the prior and past. So when you get to that, and then most of the planet now collectively, and I say most, I mean everyone except for me, it's still got karma in a certain, it's still part of their lives, right? when you transmute enough of the fears, insecurities, wounds, traumas, and you have a better idea of the system that we're part of, then another time capsule releases, and you realize that in this next stage of life, even though it might be 1,000,000 years later, no, it's not 1,000,000, but maybe 100,000 years later, that karma is no longer needed. And what I mean by that is we're headed towards growth. That growth is headed towards the end game, which is harmony. And as we go along, you wouldn't be getting closer to being a harmonious organization called humanity and be still having to deal with the lessons of karma, because harmony doesn't, karma is drama, right? It's designed to make you learn something, right? And learn it once and for all and let it go. And so what happens is there are ways to, there'll be cycles that will cycle to higher states for a human being that will transmute karma naturally, and this is part of a numerologist study. You will be born into a higher consciousness, and that won't include karma. So you'll find a lot of the children today will be born without it. It's not like they have to do something. If you're here now like me and you've had enough growth, then the frequency changes and the cycles will change and give you the half of it, and the other half you'll have to work at yourself. And because we're born in halfway through in the where there has been karma and it's been heavily reliant, and my life has been one big karmic lesson, well, I'll then drop that karma. And there is instruction sets in my book, The Absolute Theory of Everything, of how to drop that karma. It's a practical application, and it has to be done, and it's one line, and it has to be said each day. And what it involves is learning a bit about karma, learning a bit about the system, and making spiritual sense and making common sense of it, and then instructing whoever governs karma to drop it. And you have to do that every day for quite some time, because that system has been within you and in your lineage for millions of years. And you could imagine, being there that long. But also, unlike everything else that's presented to you in the world that's full of shit, or a piece of the puzzle that you'll never get, or a breadcrumb, I give you the exact practical application. You do it every day. And like me, when I first started doing it, right, when I first came across this, I was someone who experienced so much karma lessons. I would do something wrong, walk around the corner and run into a brick wall. It was just, it was quick, it was ruthless, it was distracting, it was terrible. And I wasn't really enjoying life. And so I was like, when I first sort of came to this and got this information, I was like, I'm in, and I want to do it now. And so the system that I'm sharing with you, I started doing, and then I actually tested it. I would do some things wrong that would normally get me in quite some trouble, and nothing. And so now it's pretty smooth sailing. They've all gone, all those little lessons, bits and pieces, and I'm just like, wow, this is great. So so that's that part of it. So we've got a transitioning both ways. We're part of a system. The system will be known. We're just in a very early state of our development and awareness here as human beings on the planet. But most of the things that you fear, or that you've been presented through Hollywood, I always say Hollywood, I mean TV, news, culture, society, is completely not true. It's taken like something that's quite scary and negative, and you're already in a state of perpetual fear from watching the news. And then you mix that with your unbalanced consciousness and then the residue from your thingo, and boomba, you think that this is... And it can actually convince you mentally, right? You can actually, how many times have you been scared, right? Because of your brain mentally, and you think without a reasonable doubt that is a true and justified fear. I did it all my life, and I'm here to tell you that it's not true, and I'm here to show you exactly how you can prove it and get rid of it and stuff. And it's the same energy, I guess. I do get, and I'm totally open and transparent for everything I say to be, gone through and asked questions and proven and tested, and I do ask a lot of people to be objective as possible. And just recently I was doing a talk, and I explained to the people that, well, you've seen consciousness from a balanced human being or a master, and you've seen the stories in scripture and seen this throughout history of these miraculous things that they do, and walking on water and all the rest of it. Well, if that really positive consciousness as energy can make these miraculous things happen, then what you're talking about with the fear is the negative of that. You might think you're being possessed by a demon or something, but nothing can actually enter your being and have any influence over you whatsoever, even if you let it. There's no such thing. But obviously through Hollywood, that is now a thing, and people have seen, and I mean, there's still priests in certain parts of the world in lower consciousness doing exorcisms and things like that. It's just a human being on their worst day, unbalanced consciousness, a lifetime of Hollywood demon movies mixed with the indoctrination of fear and the residue from the Akashic records in their spiritual timeline of all these entities that they can't explain or have no idea of. It's residue of that. Now you mix all that together and it's no different to someone walking on water. It's just the negative version of it. And as I said, you can mentally sometimes actually convince yourself of something. And that's, I've done other podcasts on just the mental faculties and what and how important that is as well. So we're part of a triad. We are a body, a mind and a soul, and we have no understanding at the moment the depths that those three go and how important they are to each other and how they interplay. And so I'm giving you answers to something on the planet that no one else can give you answers to, that you can test and that you can do in your life. So it's just an explanation, and then you can use filters and go along, and then you'll see all the beautiful life that I do. Thank you again, once again. I thought this was going to be a quick one. I better get out of here. Have a great day, night, morning, noon, wherever you are. This is the Aaron Roussos podcast.